Alright guys, today I'm going to teach you how to start ripping your book for this next project. So as you can see here, I've already kind of started, but that's okay. We're going to show you the next steps on what to do when ripping your book. Alright, so you're going to be taking small sections like this, folding them over, and using this box cutter to cut the middle of your pages. This box cutter is very sharp and you need to make sure that you're using it safely. You will be cutting towards you, but that is okay as long as you use the tool properly. So when starting, you want to make sure that you cut only in the middle of your paper. Cut down the middle and leave about 2 fingers width from each of the edges on the top and the bottom. You don't want to cut all the way to the end of the book. You want to make sure that it's only in the middle like this. And then simply just start ripping. I use a hand on the edges like this to kind of guide so I don't rip the paper to the edges of the book. You want to make sure that you leave a decent amount of edge around. You only want to make a circle or oval in the middle of your pages in your book. See how the edge, it's pretty close. It's like a finger width away from the edge. You want to make sure that it's like that. You do not want your pages to rip all the way to the edge. You just want to keep the circle right in the middle of the book. And so, once you're done with that layer, you move on to the next one. You take a decent layer, probably a couple pages, flip it over, take your box cutter, cut in the middle again, don't go to the edges, close your box cutter, make sure you close your box cutter between each cut, and then just use your hand to guide as you rip a circle in your book. This is a pretty fast process, so it shouldn't take too long, but yep, you just keep ripping around and around, and you take more and more sections as you go until you finish the whole book. Now this is just a sped up version of what we're doing. As you can see, I'm just flipping, cutting, and then ripping, flipping, cutting, and then ripping. And like I said, you don't want to get all the way to the edge. You just want to make sure that you're doing a circle right in the middle of the page. The edges do not have to look nice. This is ripping. It's supposed to look all unsymmetrical and rough looking. That's like the whole point. So don't worry about accuracy as long as you have your book started. This is what you are going to be doing. Just keep doing that over and over and over again. And once you get to the front and finish all of the pages, we'll move on to the next step. Alright, now that we have ripped your book all the way through, we're going to start working on adding your background, your animal, and then your foreground pieces. As you can see here, we have the background already glued onto the back with Mod Podge. It's a different type of glue. It's stickier, but it dries a lot faster than regular glue. It does kind of smell, so I'm letting you know now, but overall, it's a way better glue to use. So, we've already Mod Podged the background to the back of the book already, and that is all ready to go. So now, we're going to add our shadow, the already cut out version of our animal, to the background and place our animal the way that we have, or the way that you have already colored it in so that it is camouflaged to the background. So you can see here, I'm just moving the frog around, trying to figure out and remember where or Miss Zoe camouflaged it. And then I'm going to Mod Podge my shadow of my frog to the background right in this spot. The Mod Podge, like I said, is like glue, but you just like paint it on. A nice thin layer will do just fine. You want to be able to just see a thin white coat on top of what you're painting it on. Get it on all of the different spots of the paper, like so. And then once you have it all on there and ready to go, you flip it over and you place your shadow right on the back like that. And that should be flat against your background. So then now we'll put the actual animal on there. So when you have a butterfly, you're gonna fold it that way, fold it hot dog way instead. But for a frog, you're gonna fold it so that the frog looks like it's three-dimensional. You're gonna fold it kind of in half, like hamburger style, like you see there, and you're only gonna glue the legs and the feet to the background. So as you can see here, I'm going to take Mod Podge and glue the bottom of the frog's feet like so. Just the feet and the legs. You don't want to do the body because that part is not going to actually be sticking to the background. And then you can see I am putting it right over the top of my shadow as close as possible. It's not going to be perfect, but that's okay. I promise it's going to look great. And Mod Podge will dry completely clear. You won't be able to see any, you might see a little bit of streaking, but other than that it is very clear. So do not worry about getting it on your background or anything. It won't show up. That's why, as you can see here, I'm going to take my brush with Mod Podge on it to fully seal down the toes, because the toes are kind of coming up a little bit, so it'll be better using my brush later in the video. But as you can see, that's what it looks like when it's all glued down. And see, you can see it wasn't sticking very well, so I'm taking my brush and I'm just painting it right on there, right over the top. Like I said, the Mod Podge will dry clear, so you don't have to worry about it looking weird when you're doing it. But yeah, that's how you add your animal on top of your background. So now that the animal is done, we're going to add our foreground pieces. So as you can see here, I made some leaves that went with my background and some nice little like grass or leaf blades to put in my foreground elements as to better cover my frog. So to do this, all you're going to do is just take a little section of the paper or the pages of your book. You're going to take tape and you're going to tape down your design the way that you want it to look. You want to add, test it out, see what looks best. So as you can see here, I'm taking one of my orange leaves, I'm adding it there. I think that'll be a really great spot for it. And I'll add some tape to keep it in place. And I think I'm going to add a little bit more elements to it. So I'm going to take some blades of grass, add them there, tape them in place. And as you can see, when I flip to the next section of my book, that's all covered up. It's in the foreground of my piece, so it looks like the frog is behind these elements. That's what you're looking for. So then now I'm going to add another one. I'm going to add my yellow leaf here. Take some tape. Tape it in place. Then I'll add a grass blade. And you want to make sure that you do this in between the pages. You want to do a pretty thick layer in between each foreground element. You don't want them too close together, otherwise the effect really won't look as effective. And now I'm going to add one more. I'm going to add a nice little red leaf there. tape it down. Add more elements just to add more blades of grass just to add a little bit more to it. Like I said, you want it to look like your frog is a part of this environment. So then when you shut your book, you can see how those stick out like that, and it looks like your frog in the background is in the way back. All of those foreground elements are popping through. You can see that they look more in front of the image than they do towards the background and the frog. Like I said, you're going to want at least 3 foreground elements in your piece. You will need to have 3 different layers with 3 different foreground elements in your final project. That's what we are looking for. And then now I'm going to tell you how to glue your whole book. So finally, I'm going to show you how to Mod Podge your book so that it is all together and doesn't move around. Like I said, Mod Podge dries clear, so if you get it on some things, that's totally fine. So first, we're going to coat a pretty thick layer, not too thick, but a decently thick amount of Mod Podge on the very back page. This is what's going to seal it to your background. This is important because you don't want this to peel up at all, and you want it to stick to the back so that when you open the book, it's all one solid piece. So you just add a pretty thick layer of Mod Podge there. Like I said, it'll dry clear, so if you get it on stuff, it'll be okay. It'll dry clear. And then you put it in the back. It'll start the gluing process right away, and then now you just put Mod Podge all over your book. All over the pages. Oh, I guess my paper. Ignore this. There we go. But, so now you're gonna, like I said, take a pretty decent layer of glue or this Mod Podge and put it all over your book. I do the front and all 3 sides. As you can see, I've taken a pretty decent scoop of Mod Podge and I just put it right on the book. And you just coat that whole area. You want to do this side, you want to do the top and the bottom side, and that front page. So it all just is nice one solid piece. You don't have to worry about any pages falling or falling out and opening when you open the book. Just like one solid, pretty thick coat of Mod Podge all over your book. So then once you finish Mod Podging the whole book, you're going to take a piece of wax paper. I folded it here, but I ended up changing my mind. But you're just going to put, as you can see, I changed my mind. I'm going to flip it around. You want to make sure that the sticky side stays towards the sticky side. You do not want to shut your front cover and close your book on accident. That will not be good. So you want that wax paper in between the top cover and your wet Mod Podge covered pages, and then boom, you shut your book, you flip it over, and I just take my brush and I kind of clean up some of the edges. You want to push down during this, because when you push down, you'll push some of that Mod Podge that went in between the pages, and it'll squeeze it together. And by pushing down on it, you're kind of making it into that solid form, which is what we're looking for. But once you're to this step, you just put a book right on top for some weight to add pressure to it overnight, and boom, it is all done.